I hope you had a great Christmas, and now we're looking forward to New Year's and all that the new year brings into our lives, and it's going to be a wonderful new start, right? That's why today I want to spend a few moments talking to you about God never wastes a hurt. 2020 has brought a lot of hurt into our lives, that's a fact. Emotional pain, relational pain, all kinds of hurts into our lives. And what we do with that hurt, what we do with that pain is going to determine how we move into our future. So I felt it was very important that today we take a few minutes to pause and look at how God never wastes a hurt. There is purpose in the pain. There's purpose in the pain. And so I want you to engage your heart and your mind into this moment and allow the Holy Spirit to speak to you through this message. I want to take you back to a message that I gave in a series. It was a recovery series called Getting Better. And this message just deals right with this whole thing of you and I, in our process of recovery, dealing with our pain and our hurt. We have to really lean into the fact that God is wanting to take this pain and recycle it and make something beautiful out of it. So let's go into the service right now. Just relax and enjoy what God is wanting to say to you in this message. Throughout this series, we've been saying this truth, and it's simply this: we all need recovery. It's not just drugs and alcohol, it's we all need recovery. Why? Because we all know what it is to get hurt, and we all know what it is to hurt others. We all have habits we want to change, and we all have hang-ups we need to take care of, yes? So that means we all need recovery. Turn to the person beside you and tell them that. Say, you need recovery, and I certainly do too. I certainly do too. Now, before we go to the 8th step, I want us to do a review of these other 7 steps. It's from the word recovery, and I want you to read them. This is a recovery group today, so you got to participate out loud, all right? Even the Cowboy fans. All right, here we go. Put them up. Put them up on the screen. Here we go. The R stands for realize I'm not God. I admit I'm powerless to control my tendency to do the wrong thing, and my life is unmanageable. The letter E stands for earnestly believe that God exists, that I matter to Him, and that He has the power to help me recover. The C, consciously choose to commit all my life and will to Christ's care and control. The O, openly examine and confess my faults to myself, to God, and to someone I trust. The V, voluntarily submit to every change God wants to make in my life and humbly ask Him to remove my character defects. The E, evaluate all my relationships, offer forgiveness to those who've hurt me, and make amends for harm I've done to others, except when to do so would harm them or others. The R, reserve a daily time with God for self-examination, Bible reading, and prayer in order to know God and His will for my life and gain the power to do it. Now today we're looking at the 8th step. It's the letter Y. Would you read it with me out loud? Ready, go. Yield myself to God to be used to bring this good news to others by both my example and by my words. This last step is all about you and I learning to share our story of healing with others. God has healed you. He's healed me. We are being recovered and restored. And as we are, we need to begin to share that with other people, that they too can find healing and restoration, that they too can get better. And today I want to simply talk about 2 different sections, 2 different parts. The first is, and this is a big question, why does God allow pain into our lives? It's a big question. And then secondly, how do you share your story? How do you use your pain to help other people? All right, here we go. Why does God allow pain into our lives? First of all, here's one reason: because God has given me a free will. God has given you a free will. Deuteronomy 11 talks about that. I am giving you the choice, circle choice, the choice today between God's blessings or God's curse. There will be blessing if you obey the commandments. God has created you with a free will. How many of you know that? You have the free will to choose good or to choose evil. You can choose right or you can choose wrong. You see, God the Creator created you in His what? In His image. And part of being created in God's image is He has given you this thing called free will. And that can be a blessing or it can be a burden. How many of you would say that you have made at least one poor choice today? Okay, all right, you got what I'm saying. Have you made choices that you regretted? Obviously, and both hands, I got you. Yes, sir. I see that hand. Both of them. And we make these poor choices, then we suffer the consequences, the pain of it. Now, here's the thing. You say, well, James, I've had other people do things to harm me, to hurt me. That's because of free will. Well, James, couldn't God stop that hurt from happening to me? I was a victim. Yes, He could. He could stop that from happening, but here's what He would have to do. He would have to take away their free will. And if He takes away their free will, He's going to have to take away your free will. And listen carefully. You are made in the image of God, and He will never violate our free will. And that's one of the reasons why pain comes into our lives. Another reason God allows pain is to get my attention. How many of you would say that God has ever gotten your attention through pain? Oh my gosh. Sometimes it's like this sound. Do you ever hear this sound right here? Listen. Isn't that irritating? Is that bothering you yet? Okay, turn it off. What is that? It's an alarm. Pain is an alarm, like a fire alarm in your home. Pain goes off, and you know something needs to change. It's kind of like my little Emmy. She's 10 months old now. And little Emmy will let you know when things need to change. She has an alarm. She doesn't cry much. But when she needs to be changed, she lets you know. Pain is the same way. Many times, pain in our lives is, whether it's anxiety or fear or depression, whatever the pain may be, God is allowing that. It's not your problem. Pain's not your problem. Pain is the symptom that there's something stinkier. There's something that needs to change in your life. There's pain. You got what I'm saying? Now, some of us, this has been our life verse, Proverbs 20:30. Let's read it together. Ready, go. Sometimes it takes a painful situation. How many of you could stand up and give a testimony on that today? Sometimes it takes a painful situation to make you change your ways. For example, some of you, if I looked at your backyard today, it looks like the Amazon jungle. You have been putting off the mowing of the lawn. You put it off, but now because it's gotten so high, you say, I better mow the lawn. For some of us, and I mean us, literally, we have put on some poundage, and we know we need to lose some weight. We know we need to diet and exercise, right? But when we get to that point, and some of you did it before you came to church, like me, you lie down on the bed, and you have to lie on the bed to get your jeans to buckle, right? Something's got to change. I suggest we just go up a pant size. That's what I suggest. The other day, I was standing on the scale. I knew I needed to change because I was standing on the scales, and I was weighing myself, and I was sucking in my gut. And Lydia looked at me, and she said, dude, that's not going to help you weigh less. And I said, no, it really does help. It's the only way I can see the scale. By the way, I have really sunk low. I started taking those diet tranquilizers. Have you tried those yet? They're awesome. You don't lose any weight, but you don't care. There's really, really fantastic stuff. I'm telling you, right, okay? Sometimes we don't change until we hurt bad enough. We don't change when we see the light. We change when we feel the heat. 2 Corinthians 7:9 says, now I'm glad, not because it hurt you, but because the pain did what? It turned you to God. C.S. Lewis, one of my favorite writers, especially when it comes to philosophy, here's what he said about pain. Let's put it up on the screen. In his book, The Problem of Pain, he said, we can ignore even pleasure, but pain insists upon being attended to. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Friends, God uses pain to cause us to change our ways. God also allows pain. The next one is to teach me to depend on him. 2 Corinthians 1, 8 through 10. Let's all read this together. Ready, go. We were really crushed and overwhelmed and saw how powerless we were to help ourselves. But that was good, for then we put everything into the hands of God, who alone could save us, for he can even raise the dead. And he did help us and saved us from a terrible death. Yes, and we expect him to do it again and again. You hear what he's saying? He's saying sometimes you don't realize that God's all you need until God's all you've got. When God is all you've got, it makes you run to him. David said in Psalms 119:71, it was good for me to be afflicted, to experience pain, so that I might learn your decrees. Some things we only learn through pain. Now we're getting down to where I wanted to take you, and that is this next reason why God allows pain. This is a big one, and that is to give me a ministry to others. To give me a ministry to others. Pain makes us more sensitive and sympathetic to other people. Isn't that true? Now, I know this is hard for you folks to believe, those of you who really know me, but in my past, I wasn't always really sensitive to people who are going through long-term illnesses and long-term problems. It's not that I was heartless, it's just I didn't have a lot of patience. I'm kind of a type A, and I'll pray for you, and I'll make sure somebody sits with you all night, but you know what I'm saying? But what happened was in the early 2000s, I went through 2 bouts of valley fever, 6 months apiece, and I was flat on my back for 1 year of my life. Guess what happened during that 1 year of my life? I became so sympathetic to people who were going through long-term crisis, long-term struggles. Why? Because I went through it. Now, I'm still not the most patient person in the world, right, Lydia? Right. But I'm much better than what I was. I have much more sympathy. Why? God allowed me some pain that made me a much better person to help other people. Many times, pain prepares you and I to serve others. 2 Corinthians 1 and 4. And why does he do this? Why does God allow pain? So that when others are troubled, needing our sympathy and encouragement, we can pass on to them the same help and comfort God gives us. Now, everybody listening to me has at least one hurt or one habit or one hang-up, right? So that means that all of us have a ministry. Who better to help somebody who is depressed because their NFL football team is losing all the time than a Dallas Cowboys fan? You know what I'm saying? They feel it. They get it. Not this year. I'm afraid I'm going to be in a Dallas Cowboys jersey here in about 4 or 5 weeks. I hate that. Yeah, I see all you guys got your little jerseys you're so proud of. Who can better help an alcoholic than somebody who's walked through alcoholism? Who better can help out somebody whose child is just twisting off and doing crazy stuff than somebody who's had a prodigal child? Who better to help somebody who's walking through abuse than somebody who's been abused? You get what I'm saying? God allows these things into our lives so that we can help people who are going through the exact same thing. God never wastes a hurt. Let me say it again. God never wastes a hurt. God is going to recycle your pain. He's going to take that stuff that you've experienced, that pain and that suffering and that heartache, and he's going to recycle it so that you can be a blessing to other people who are walking through the very same thing. But by the way, listen carefully. The only way God can recycle that pain is if you don't hide it. If you hide your experience, well, I don't want anybody to know that I walked through that. I'm embarrassed. Well, if you do, you're wasting your hurt. And you won't have that ministry that God wants you to have. Now listen, a lot of you know this, because if you've been around here anytime at all, you know that Lydia and I have a ministry to hurting couples. Marriages are really hurting. You know why? Because in our 35 years of marital bliss, we've had a few rough patches. I said a few. A few. And so we're able to help other couples that are walking through a rough patch of their life, right? And so if you ladies go up to Lydia and you say, listen, I don't want to divorce him. I just want to kill him. She'll go, I relate to that. You go up to Lydia and she said, if you go to Lydia and say, I hate my husband. She'll say, no, I relate to that. I really do. I get it. I get it. And because Lydia and I did not play the preacher person who's all perfect, got the perfect marriage, never has any struggles, had the halos. Because we didn't do that for 26 years, we have helped literally thousands of couples stay together, work through their junk like we did, and we see it now. They're on the other side. They're doing fantastic, and now those couples are helping other couples, and it's multiplied. Why? Because Lydia and I did not hide the hurt. Thank you, darling. I love you too. God says to you today, don't hide your hurt. Share it. When God helps you with it, share it, because somebody's going to need what you've got. God can take our greatest pain, the thing that hurt the most in your life, and turn it around and use it for His glory and the good of others. I mean, you take, for example, Joseph in the Bible. You know, Joseph was this guy that he had undeserved pain inflicted on him. His brothers sold him into slavery, and then he was thrown into prison because he was falsely accused of raping somebody. And God took all of that pain and He worked it together to elevate Joseph. He went from the pit to the palace. God elevated him to the second most powerful position in the world so that he could save 2 nations. He allowed pain to get Joe where he needed to go. And at the end, this is what Joseph said about his brothers who had hurt him. He said, they intended to harm me, but God intended it for what? For good. God never wastes a hurt. Any hurt in your past, anything you're going through right now, I'm telling you, as long as you allow God to help you through it and you don't hide it, then God will never waste that hurt in your life. You will have a ministry to other people. Now, a person who really gets this in our church family is a fellow New Lifer named Anthony Cortez. He's in this service as well, but I want you to hear his story. Let's listen.
At 6 years of age, my mother basically died in front of me. She hemorrhaged, gave birth to my younger sister, died, never came home, and that really affected me. Didn't realize it till years later. I'm talking about years later. So I went astray, started smoking, stealing, drinking, got into a bad crowd and everything, and been in and out of jail many times. Drugs, alcohol, bad relationship, pornography, you name it. And there was a point in time in my life that I started coming to New Life. And I was on meth at that time. I was really struggling. I was in a bad relationship. And I met this small group of men, and I went and started hanging out with them. They invited me to a men's group, and they just accepted me. They didn't judge me. They just accepted me the way I was, loved on me. I never experienced that. I mean, I was basically been a loner all my life. And when they did that, I was able to open up and share my hurts and all these pains, everything that was going on, and that was a relief. That was something that it was like somebody just lifted a ton of bricks off my shoulders, you know? But I know that through all those life experiences that now that I see everything, those things that I did on my own, those choices I made, and those things that just happened because they happened. I didn't have any control over, like my mother passing away. But I see God now. He was there every step of the way. Every step of the way, He was there. You know, I've experienced all those things in my life, and there are men going through the same thing. And I'm able to relate. I'm able to share my story with them, and they're able to just like, wow, I'm going through the same thing, I'm going through that. As I'm transparent, as I'm open,